Today's lesson is about simplifying ratios. We touched on this a little bit last lesson. We're going to do lots and lots and lots of it today. Ratios are very similar to fractions. They can actually be represented as fractions. And we can simplify fractions, which means we can also simplify our ratios. And all ratios should be given in simplest form when possible. If each number in a ratio is multiplied or divided by the same number, an equivalent ratio is formed. We did come across that last lesson. Ratios are simplified by dividing by the highest common factor, just like you would a fraction. If you can divide each number by 2 and you get whole numbers, you don't want to go to decimals, then that's what you do. Or the bigger number, the better, because it will simplify it more. Decimals, if you do have a decimal in your ratio, we want to change them into whole numbers by either multiplying by some factor of 10. So if there's only one decimal place, we multiply by 10 because that will jump over that one spot. If there's 2 decimal places, you multiply by 100 and so on, right? Ratios in simplest form should only use whole numbers written there in capital letters. All right, examples. Number 1, look at the cats and dogs shown below there and find the following ratios. Give your answers in simplest form. So first we want the ratio of cats to dogs. So we count up how many cats there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
64.
Okay, thank you. Don't yell that. 6 cats. Then we want to count how many dogs there are, which is 4. But we did that last lesson, but now we want to simplify it. So both of those numbers can be divided by 2. So if you divide 6 by 2, you get a 3. And 4 divided by 2 is a 2. Okay, let's try it again. The ratio of dogs to cats, we just put the dogs first, which was 4, ... then the cats, which is 6. We're still going to divide by 2, which gives a ratio of 2 to 3. Cats to animals, if there is 6 cats, the animals means all of them all together, which there's 10 dogs and cats there. And what can I divide by? Cash? 2. Thank you. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, you get the idea? Just simplifying them down after we get the ratio. So there's a bunch of them here in question 2, just simplifying, lots and lots of simplifying. So the hardest part is to try and find the number that you're dividing by, I think. So if you look at the first one, we have the ratio 3 to 6. What can I divide by? Both of them. Cash, again. What am I dividing by? Not the answer. I'm dividing by, not 2. Can't divide 3 by 2. I'm going to divide by 3. Perfect. So 3 divided by 3. So you can write that up the top if you want to, just to remind yourself. I'm dividing by 3. That means both of the numbers. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. Okay, look at question B. We have 4 and a 12. What is the biggest number that they can both be divided by? Let someone else have a turn. Noah. 4, perfect. So we're going to divide by 4 here. First number, 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then 12 divided by 4 is 3. Good. Look at the next one. C. 10 ... 2. What can I divide them both by? Come on, shall we?
2.
2. Did you just say that because he said it?
No.
Oh, good. Divide by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. 64 and 8. What can I divide by? Yes. But 8 is bigger. If you don't find the biggest number straight away, that's okay. It just might mean you have to do 2 steps to get it completely simplified. But if you can find the bigger number, it will make it faster. So 8 is the bigger number. I'm going to divide by 8. 64 divided by 8 is 8. And 8 divided by 8 is 1. Yes, Joey?
I just did so.
Did it? Don't spoil it. Wait. Getting to that later. Not yet. Part E. 30 and 5, what can I divide by? 5, good. Dividing by 5. 30 divided by 5 is 6, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. All right, next one, 12 and 48. What is the biggest number I can divide by? 12. 12 divided by 12 is 1. 48 divided by 12 is? 4. And 25 and 35, what can I divide by? 5, good. So divide by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5, and 35 divided by 5 is 7. And one last one, 21 to 28 can divide by? Very good. 21 divided by 7 is 3, and 28 divided by 7 is 4. Okay, now Joey was trying to steal my thunder there for a second, but you can, while I would like you to do the questions like this, I would like you to have a look at the question and go, I can simplify that by dividing by whatever number. You can use your calculator to help you if you're stuck or if you'd like to check. So remember that I said that ratios are like fractions. So what you can do is you can get your calculator out and you can type in, let's go back to this first one, and you can just type in the numbers as a fraction. You put the 3 on the top and the 6 on the bottom and press equals, and then it simplifies it down to the 1 and the 2 for you. The only thing you have to be careful of is, let's try C here. If you type in 10 on the top, 2 on the bottom, it just gives you the 5. Why does it just give you the 5? Because the second numbers are 1. Okay, if it gives you a whole number, it means the second number is a 1. But otherwise, it's pretty easy to use. Okay, so you have that little trick up your sleeve as well. Okay, question 3 is about equivalent ratios. Simplifying, we're trying to make them as small as possible, but there is lots of different ratios that can be equivalent, which means that they're the same size, but just much bigger versions or smaller versions of the same ratio. So we're going to be given a starting ratio and want to find some missing boxes. We did do some of this, and I know it was confusing for a few of you, so hopefully second time around it will be easier. What you want to do is you want to look at the ones that are in the same position, the 2 and the 10 there. They're in that second position. And you either need to multiply or divide, okay? There's no adding or subtracting. If I'm going from a small number to a bigger number, I'm going to have to multiply, okay? So to go from the 2 to the 10, I'm going to have to multiply by something. What do you multiply 2 by to get to 10? 5. Okay, 2 times 5 makes 10. Once you've worked that out, that means you want to do that same thing on the other side of the ratio. You want to times that by 5 as well. So you go 1 times 5 makes 5. So the ratio 1 to 2 is the same as the ratio 5 to 10. That kind of makes sense. Let's find this bottom one. There's a third one here. So this is not going to be times by 5. This is going to be doing something else. This time we're going from the 1 to the 6. And we have to find, how do I get from a 1 to a 6? It's getting bigger, so I times by 6. So on the other side, I'm going to times that side by 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Now you don't have to write all these arrows and things on there, but it's just a way for me to show you visually what I'm doing and how I'm getting those numbers. For some of you, it will help to keep writing that on there. Some of you might, if you don't write neatly, it can actually look quite messy and confusing, so keep it neat. All right, next one, let's do it again. We have the ratio 48 to 16. That's actually an unsimplified ratio. That's a big ratio, and the ones underneath it are actually going to be getting smaller. Now, if I look at the first two, I've got a 16 and a 10. That's actually not so nice because 16 is getting smaller, but you can't actually divide, we don't subtract, we can't actually divide 16 by a whole number and get to 10. Okay, so because of that, how about we start on the other side? The 48 and the 8, is that going to go nicer? Can I divide 48 by something to get to 8? Correct. What would I divide by? Something 8 to 48. Times tables, people. 6 8s are 48. So you're actually timesing that by 6, or actually we're dividing it when we go backwards. Okay, going 48 divided by 6 gives us the 8. So on the other side, I'm going to do 16 divided by 6. Not so nice. What's 16 divided by 6? Not nice.
2.6.
Yeah. Let's leave it as a mixed numeral. 2 and 2/3. 2 and 2/3. Okay, alright, unfortunately, it didn't get much nicer for me to get to that 10 though, did it? So, I'm going to have to go to a decimal number because it's not going to be a whole one. So let's find out, how can I get from 16 to 10? Because it's not going to be a nice timetable, let's do 16 divided by 10, which is 1.6. Which means I have to, let's just double check that. If I do 16 divided by 1.6, I do get the 10, right? So let's type in here for the red one, we're going to be dividing by 1.6. Not ideal, don't usually like decimals. On the other side, I'm going from 48, I'm going to have to divide that by 1.6. Type it in. And that gets 30. The numbers come out nice, it's just we're not dividing by something very nice. I was hoping the bottom number would come out nicer and it would be easier to use, but it wasn't. Alright, question 4. Write the following ratios in simplest form. Remember, ratios are always comparing the same types of quantities. So we can't have different units in there. And I've got 15 centimetres and 20 centimetres, that's convenient, those ones are already the same. If the units are the same, I just write it straight away as a ratio, 15.20, and then I simplify by finding something to divide by. 5. So 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 20 divided by 5 is 4. Or you could type the fraction into your calculator if you needed to. In part B though, I have 2 meters and 450 centimeters, different units. Which one should I change? Meters, the bigger one. Otherwise, we're going to have to go into decimals, which just creates more problems for us. Okay, so 2 meters in centimeters. How many centimeters in a meter? 100. So 2 times 100 means that's 200 centimeters. Once the units are the same, I can write it as a ratio, 200.450. Don't write centimeters, don't need to do that anymore because they were the same. Now I want to divide by something. Now if there's zeros on the end of both of your numbers, you can start by dividing by 10. So there we go, we just have the ratio 20 to 45 if I cross a 0 off the end of each one. And that's much easier, those can both be divided by 5, right? 5, so 20 divided by 5 is 4, and 45 divided by 5 is 9. Please remember that you could type the whole thing in, you go 200 over 450 and press your equals, and there's your 4 to 9. If you're using your calculator though, please don't ever write your answers down as fractions, you do have to put it back as a ratio when you're doing them. Okay, part C, 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Different units, which one am I going to change? The minutes. How many seconds are in 3 minutes? Good, what did you do? You times it by 60. That's right. There is 60 seconds in a minute, which is how you get 180 seconds.
You have to write that down.
Well, oh, sorry. You need to show that, I would like to see that you converted it. Yes. Okay, once you've got them the same, then we want to write our ratio down. 180.20. Don't need the seconds part because they're the same. Again, I have a 0 on both sides, so let's just go, whoop, divide by 10, crosses those zeros off. And so I'm just looking at 18 and 2, which can be divided by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9, and 20 divided by 2 is 1. Which if you're using your calculator, you'll just get a 9 and you'll have to remember to put that 1 back in there. One more of these. 6,200 grams and 4 kilograms. Which one am I changing? Very good. How many grams are in 4 kilograms? 4,000. Okay, could you times that by 1,000? So it's 4,000 grams. So my ratio is 6200.4,000. This time, we can even cross 2 zeros off from both sides. Go 1, 2, and 1, 2. So it's 62 and 40 that I'm simplifying. What can I divide by? 2. So 31 ... 20. How are we going? Is it all right? Yeah? Good. Okay, so after that, we want to do more simplifying, but the problem is we now have fractions in there. Okay, so when you have fractions in your ratios, to be simplified, they have to be whole numbers. We have to get rid of those fractions. If the fractions that we have the same denominator, so this first one, they both have 4s on the bottom, all I have to do is multiply each of those fractions by the 4. Okay, and you can do that part on your calculator if you need to. You would type in, the first fraction is 1/4, and if you times that by 4, what's going to happen? You just get the 1. It just gets rid of that denominator for you. So it's going to be 1 ... What's 3/4 times 4 going to be? Just the 3. Okay, but that only worked because the denominators were the same. If the denominators are different, like in part B, you have to multiply those two numbers together. It's like when we did fractions and we had to find common denominators. If I have a fraction with a denominator, I mean they are fractions. That seems a bit silly when we're doing fractions. But when we're adding and subtracting fractions, we had to find common denominators first. That's what we're doing here. So if I have a denominator of 5 and a denominator of 2, the common denominator is 10. Just multiply those two numbers together. And multiply that whole fraction by 10 and that whole fraction by 10. Type them in. 4/5. And if you times that by 10, can anyone do it without their calculator? 8. Okay, so 8 for the first one. Then type in the second one. 3/2. And I'm going to multiply that by 10. Okay, 15. That should, if you follow that process, it should always mean that your fractions disappear, but still just have a look at your numbers to make sure that there's no more cancelling that can be done. Sometimes I divide by 2 or something to simplify them further, but I can't for that one. All right, let's try the next one. There is only one fraction. The denominator is a 5, so what am I going to do? Multiply both sides. It's kind of like an equation. You have to keep it balanced. You have to do the same thing to both sides. Multiply them both by 5. If you multiply the 3 by 5, 3 times 5 is 15. And if you multiply 2/5 times 5, what are you going to get?
10.
No, just 2. It's like 2 divided by 5 times 5 means you just get the 2. You can type it in your calculator if you don't believe me. All right? Done. Last one. Even mixed numerals, doesn't matter, we can still handle it. I have a 2 and a 5 on the denominator again. So what's my common denominator going to be? Multiply them together. 10, did you say that? Someone said it. 10. So multiply each of them. Multiply that by 10, multiply that by 10. Your calculator will save you a lot of time trying to do this multiplication in your head. Remember to type in a mixed numeral. You must use the 3 boxes. Don't try and use just the normal fraction and put it in front. What will your calculator do if you do that? Do you know? If you try to type in fraction like that and go 1/2 and then just go back arrows and try and squeeze the 2 out the front, what did my calculator do?
Put brackets around it.
Well, I did put brackets around it. When you do that, it thinks you want to multiply the 2 with the half, because things next to each other are multiplied, like algebra, right? So you must, if you want your calculator to do that properly, you have to press Shift fraction button to bring up the 3 boxes. Okay? And then you can type in the 2.
Doesn't have one for me.
What kind of calculator do you have?
The same.
2.5. And then what do you get this time?
Look.
What did you get? Did you get 1 or 5/2?
5/2.
5/2 is the correct answer. Before, when I typed it, I got 1, which was wrong. Okay, so that is this fraction here, but I have to multiply it by 10. Multiply by 10 equals 25. Okay, then the second one, type in 4/5 and multiply that by 10, and you're going to get 8. Can I simplify that? No, done. Okay, question 6. and I don't know how to say that name. Do you reckon it's a silent K? Quok? Quok. Quok was absent from school on 8 days in term 1. There were 44 school days in term 1. Write the following ratios in simplest form. The ratio of days absent to total days. Well, he was, I'm assuming that was a he, but anyway, he was absent for 8 days, and the total number of days was 44. Okay, so there's my ratio, but I have to simplify it. What can I divide by? 44 doesn't divide by 8. 4. 2 would work, but 4 is bigger. Dividing by 4, 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 44 divided by 4 is 11. Okay, part B. The ratio of days present to total days. Okay, if he was away for 8 days, how many days was he actually present?
36.
Yeah, you want to subtract the 8 days that he was away, you go 44 minus 8, that means he was there for 36 days. And of total days, 44. What can I divide by?
2.
Yep, bigger.
12.
Nope, doesn't work.
3.
3 doesn't work. 4 again. 36 divided by 4 is 9. 44 divided by 9 is 11. We kind of could have done that from here, couldn't we? If he was there for 2:11 ratio, you'd add, if you did 11 take away 2, that means 9 out of 11 that he was actually there for. And part C, ratio of days absent to days present. He was absent for 8 days, present for 36 days, and if I divide by 4 again, I get 2.9. And that's it, I think, isn't it? That was the last question.